Hello, my beautiful, gorgeous dance baby, and welcome to another episode of More Than Dance. Today, we are talking about something that I've been kind of teasing out for a little while now, and it's finally here. We're talking about consistency and how consistency will always beat out intensity because intensity is like, it's sexy, right? It's like, ooh, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna go all in. And consistency can sometimes feel boring. And it's the consistency. Like I've said that like 100 times. And it's the consistency that is what's going to make your results actually happen. So I want to share with you a story that is kind of a repeat story, and it happens a lot. I see it a lot at the studio. And it starts like this. Someone signs up for a class, which turns into them signing up for a membership, and it turns into them being so excited and enthused about dance that they want to come all the time. They want to come every day. They want to be there. They want to do all the classes, all the themes, all the outfits, all the workshops. And their consistency is amazing. And it's like, oh my gosh, well, like, wow, look at them go. Like they're coming in, they're doing all these classes. And then about 2 months will go by. And then I won't see them or hear from them ever again, basically. Not all the time. It's the ending of the story, just sometimes. And what happens is they went so consistent and so intense for however long they go for, and they reach a burnout point. So if you haven't listened to our episode on burnout, definitely go do that. It's episode 31. And we talk about how certain things bring you to a burnout level. Sometimes it's just being busy and like thinking that you're doing like a lot of things. And other times is that you're going so intense with all the things you want to be consistent with that, yes, you're getting your check mark for being consistent. And you can also lower your temperature on your intensity. So that's what we're going to go into today. Now, these people, this frequent occurrence that happens, they turned the volume up on intensity because they're excited. It's for a bunch of different reasons. You can think about this in terms of like weight loss. I know I talk about this a lot, and I feel like it's just a really relatable parallel subject to dance and starting something. You can also think about like the gym, and it's pretty common because I would say that like 80% of the world goes through something like this. So take yourself back. Let's do this little like visualization real quick. Let's go back to a time where you felt you were ready to be really consistent on something. Now, there were a few times that I have done something like this where I've gone way too intense on something so consistent, and it led me to either stop entirely and never revisit it again or burn out. So flash back with me to 2020. Josh and I decided to do 100 push-ups a day live. So we would show up on our channels and we would do 100 push-ups, and people would either A, just watch us, or B, maybe they would join in and do some activity with us. And it was our way of like being connected and doing something that we could like look forward to that was somewhat of a routine in the chaos. And we did it for a while. I think we did it for at least over a month, and then we just stopped. And it was funny because it was something that we enjoyed, and it was something that we knew other people were enjoying, and yet it was intense. It was like the volume level of intensity was too high, and it led us to just not do it. I think it was like leading to like overuse, and like, I don't know if my body was benefiting from it. Maybe my like mental was, because I was excited to like see people that came live with us, and I was excited to have a moment to do something with Josh that was like cute and active. I think like my body was saying like, yo, you don't need this, like back off. And I think about this often because this is a similar story. Like you can put yourself in this situation, right? Where you're maybe deciding to go to the gym and you're like, I'm going to go. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to go to dance every day. I'm going to eat clean every day. I'm going to knock out sugar every day. And you're so excited. And that enthusiasm is awesome. I love that enthusiasm. And it also leads you to stop and not continue and not stay consistent. And it's this all or nothing. Well, I'm not going to do it unless I'm all in. Well, I'm not going to do it unless I'm 100%. Well, I never do things half-assed, so I'm going to do it full out. Imagine, I just said the words full out, and now I'm thinking think about when we're getting ready for performances. Imagine if we did every run full out. Full out? That would be exhausting. And it would be so exhausting that A, it could lead us to injury. B, it could lead us to like not pick up on some of the things that we're learning when we're taking a little bit back. Personally, when I lower my intensity when I'm in the learning process, there's other things that I'm collecting inside my heads, but inside my head, I'm thinking like, okay, look at that. Your foot, it needs to be turned out. Or, oh, look at that. Like make your alignment a little bit stronger. And I'm like having a chance to check in with myself and my mirror self. So maybe there are two heads actually. And I'm having these moments to slow down, even though it's sped up. It's not like I'm slowing down the movement, but because it's lower intensity, because I turn the volume down, I can like breathe. I can like think things through in a different way versus full out. It's like go, 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 no matter what, like get it wrong, strong and wrong, and like figure it out. So I often think if we were doing things full out the whole time, we wouldn't be learning everything that we get to learn when we're not doing everything full out. That's why there'll be times where I'll say, all right, everybody, we're going to do it full out right now. Or we're going to do 3 full outs. Or in the case of performance time, we're going to do 25 full outs before we do our performance. And it's important to do that, obviously, for endurance training, because we don't want to go on stage and be sloppy and be tired and be looking like we're tired. Definitely not. And we want to be able to run it so full out, so consistently, and have the training that is full. At that point, we're not in the learning process. We're in the doing process. So when we're in the learning process, if you were doing things full out all the time, what are you learning? What are you able to take in? What are you absorbing? Because when I'm doing a run and it's not full out, I'm thinking, okay, did you do that pathway with your hands correctly? Okay, were your eyes tracking where you wanted them to track? Or, ooh, did you make that like cool facial that you said you were going to try and make during that moment? When you do too much, too intense, too quickly, you set yourself up for failure. You set yourself up for burnout, and you set yourself up to question yourself and to question why you started. And I bet you know what this is all leading back to. I'll give you a hint. It's a word. It starts with a P. It all leads back to perfectionism. Because when we're trying to be perfect, we're saying, hey, let me do it. Well, there's a class at this time and this time and this time, so that must be a signal for me to just do it. Well, the gym's open 24/7, so I should probably make it there at least 7 days out of the week, maybe one rest. And what this is like is, imagine yourself lighting a sparkler, and it's bright and it's booming and it's beautiful and things are pretty and it's going well. And then guess what happens to a sparkler? It burns out quickly. And you're left with this stick that's like smoked out and like, it gets like kind of like wrinkly. That's you. You're letting yourself get burned out by doing and doing and doing. So imagine though, if we have just a slow burn, a small little tiny fire. It's on. The fire's on. It's warm. Maybe it's not hot. Maybe it's not blazing. Maybe it's not the kind of fire where you're going to go home and be like, crap, why did I wear my good sweatshirt? I just washed it. Or I just washed my hair. But it is a fire and it is burning. And that's how we want to go through our new activities and our new things that we're trying to do. So it could be maybe even not a new thing. It's just like a new way of looking at it. And I know for some of you, as we go into winter, we think about New Year's, we think about getting ourselves ready for a new season, a season of change. And we want to go in. We want to go in. We want to go hard. And I'm here to tell you that you can go in and you can go hard and you can switch up your intensity. You can switch up your levels every day. Every day, every minute, you get to switch it up. It doesn't have to be the same height of intensity for everything that you're doing. So what this would look like would be, I'll take you down a couple of examples. How about? So for dance, you sign up, you get your membership, you're excited. You're like, wow, I really could go like every day. Oh, like I really want to. Okay, well, be a thinker. Think about yourself and what you need. So a perfect example of this is I am about to do a very big weekend where I have 2 weddings back to back. And then shortly after that, I have another weekend of 2 weddings back to back. Now, in addition to that, obviously I'm running the studio, doing the podcast. So it's a lot of things that are on the plate. And on top of that, I know myself a lot and I know how to figure it out. So I know certain days I'm going to take it back. I'm going to chill when I normally might sit by my desk and do some work. I'm going to take that time to alter my schedule so that I can do it. So when you're thinking about your schedule, how are you going to alter your schedule if you're bringing so much in? You want to be able to adjust for your energy cost. And in episode 32 and 33, we talked about the stamina gap. And this is kind of similar. So in those episodes, we were talking about interruptions and transitioning and detours, and how when you're transitioning something, to account for the stamina gap and to understand that things are going to take a little bit longer for your body to adjust. This is very similar. So when you're adding new things into your schedule, it's different. And when you are becoming consistent with something, it's important to understand your stamina that goes with it. So your energy cost. So if you were to come to class 4 times a week, are you doing the calculation that's going to say, okay, well, next week you're going to be so exhausted and you're going to catch up on this, and you kind of neglected your family that week. And there's so many other factors of you, because remember, you're a pie. And there's so many slices of you that make up your whole life. That's more than dance. That's more than family. That's more than your social time with your friends. It's important to play around with each of these pie slices to keep yourself whole. And when you're jumping in, it might be important to understand that, okay, I'm going to jump all in. I'm going to do 4 classes a week for 3 weeks, and then I'm going to wean off. That's your plan. That's great. You can do it that way. You can also do it like this. I'm going to do 1 class a week for 2 weeks, then I'm going to add in a second class and see how that feels. What I'm trying to tell you is there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just becoming a little bit more aware about what consistency and what turning up your volume means, what it does to you. And if you're wondering like, wow, like I went too hard too fast. Okay, what can you do? Versus I'm going to quit now. I'm just not going to do it at all. So how can you learn to lower your intensity without quitting altogether? And sometimes we just like turn ourselves off. There's been times where I've gone to the gym and I've been so consistent and the volume was up and it was at a good level. It wasn't like too high. And sometimes I just feel like, okay. And this is where I begin to question like the word discipline, because we talk about that being like the end all. And of course, if I was like competing for something, or if I was like, going on stage for something very important where I needed my body to be at its best, potentially I would have continued with the intensity, with the volume, perhaps turned it up. And I know in myself that I would probably have a moment where I would have a conversation with myself like, okay, Chrissy, you did decide that this is what you wanted to do. You did decide this is your goal. You did decide that this is da-da-da. And then I would figure out where I could turn my volume down and where I could turn it up. I had a student the other day, she was telling me, oh my gosh, I'm so sore from teas the other night. And I was like, well, it makes sense, right? And she was like, yeah. And what we both were talking about was she hasn't been coming to strut as often. So all of a sudden, in one day, she turned her volume up, her intensity volume of dance. She turned it way up, came to a workshop. And then I said, you probably wouldn't have been so sore if you were coming all the time to strut, right? Another example of this would be, when you go to the gym and you do this like gigantic workout and you're like, oh my gosh. And then you wake up the next day and you're just like, maybe walking, you're so sore. And it's because you turned up your intensity level and your consistency level has been tapering down. So it's no wonder that when you showed up at the gym to do a full-on workout, maybe similar to the workout that you were doing before when you were consistent and showing up for yourself, whether your intensity volume was high or low, you might have been able to do that exact same workout and not be sore the next day. Or my student might have been able to do that class and then another one the next day and not have been sore from it. And this is very common. I mean, you could put this in any example. So think about when you're watering your plants. There might be like a couple of weeks where you're just consistently doing it every 3 days. And then maybe you forget it, or you travel, or you didn't get someone to watch the plants. And then you water them, and maybe you overwater them. And then your plant's like, oh no. It's the same idea. The consistency wasn't consistent and the intensity went too high, and thus your poor plant was overwatered. Joshi plays basketball. So when he's consistent with playing basketball, he might feel like his skills are like sharp and on point. And if he's consistent, he might feel like he's able to run faster. And on those days that he just like shows up to the court and he's like, well, like I haven't been consistent. I haven't been here in a month, and he goes hard. He might be sore the next day. He might feel like he wasn't able to get as many baskets as he was able to get. Or for example, when I'm DJing and when I'm in the heat of my wedding season, I feel so good about DJing because I'm doing it every weekend versus my first gig of the season of every year. I'm always like, okay, because the reps matter, and the reps are consistency. And even if it's just pulling out my equipment, this is something that I do now is before I have a gig, especially if I haven't had a gig in a while, I'll take out my equipment, I'll play around with it, I'll like get my fingers back to like where they normally go, I'll check my music, the connections, like there's a rep that I'll do. And the intensity that day might be low. That intensity is low because it's just, I'm not DJing for anyone. I'm just popping on my equipment just to give it a run through. And this brings me to my next point about run throughs versus full outs. So we talked about full outs. We know what those are. It's going full out for a run. And then there's a run through. And then there's the phrase that we say in the dance world called marking it. Those are really valuable as well. I know that for me in the performance season, when we have just a night just to do a run through, it's like, okay, we're preserving everything that we worked so hard on in our last intense practice, and we're preserving it till our next intense practice, and our now run through, mark through becomes what our hold me over is. It's holding us over. It's keeping the stuff in our head so we don't forget it. And the intensity of that day, it's low. We might not even sweat. We might do it for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Maybe we talk about it. Maybe we review something. Maybe we laugh because we can't believe we forgot it and it was just 3 days ago. So that's us still showing up, still being consistent, and our intensity is turned down. So let's walk through this process. I want you to leave this episode knowing exactly how to play around with your intensity level so that you can get the most out of what you're doing, what you're bringing consistency to. So take a second right now and think of what example you want to go with. Do you want to go with the dance example? Do you want to go with cleaning your house example? Do you want to go with the gym example, the eating clean example? Whatever one it is, I want you to just stick it out with me. I'm not going to know your exact starting point, your exact ending point. So feel free to just like move in and out of what I'm saying because my example is going to be about dance, as this is the More Than Dance podcast. So step 1, understanding your stamina gap and the energy costs for when you're about to dive into something consistently. Understanding what makes you whole, understanding that balance is playing a part. And the best way to do this is step 2, to understand what season are you in. Are you in the wedding season where you're DJing every week? Are you in the dance season where you're getting ready for a performance? Are you in the season of, I really want to pay attention to my body and I want to give it everything healthy that it needs? That season's going to look different than, hey man, I'm just showing up. We've had seasons like that before where Josh and I have just shown up for each other just because it's part of our routine. We both were swamped with our work. In fact, there's one time that I've mentioned before and I'll mention again. We moved 2 times in 1 year and it was literally nuts. And our intensity, volume was very low. We were showing up for each other very low. However, we were showing up very high for our world that we were building. Our intensity volume was so high that we were so low in something else. And that's the third step, is understanding where you're giving and taking and pushing and pulling. Because when you have your energy volume turned up and your consistency volume turned up in one area of your life, something's got to give. We don't get to make more hours just because we want to be more consistent with something. So where are you going to pull from? How are you going to pull from? We both, we didn't even talk about the decision. We just knew we were in survival mode, basically. So sometimes those moments you just get to look at differently because they're different. We were like, wow, we got to move again. Whoa, okay. Oh, wow, we're going to build a studio in 20 days. Okay. And it was intense. And the volume was too high. I wish I could have turned it down. The only thing that could have turned it down was if we had more time. So we just got to go with it. And we learned a lot from it. And do I wish that we got to have our volume turned up for each other? Yeah, that would have been nice. We probably would have felt more connected through all that turmoil. And for you, when you're trying something new or when you're getting involved with a new activity, when you want to get over your first climb, you might be turning your volume up, turning your consistency up in the beginning a lot so that you can get to a certain point and then you can kind of taper off. And the key in this is to remember step 4, which is this little idea of perfection. It doesn't exist. We've talked about this before, and I talk about this to myself all the time, and somehow I forget it all the time. It doesn't exist. Chrissy, it doesn't exist. Perfection doesn't exist. So that means that you showing up consistently, intensely for so long, it's going to do more harm than good. There is no perfect way to go about starting dance. There is no perfect way to go about going into the gym, starting your fitness regimen. There is no perfect way to figuring out your healthy eating habits. The closest thing that you will find to perfection is consistency and understanding your intensity volume. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if you can create the hack for yourself, which really comes down to knowing yourself, if you can create the hack to say, okay, I know what I'm going to do here. You're like the architect. You're going to plan it all out. You've got your blueprint. You're like, all right, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. Then you're going to succeed. And that success doesn't come from doing it then. It comes later. It's delayed onset. Just like when you're watering your plants. Well, Josh and I actually have this beautiful plant that we've been watching grow for like 2 years now. And it's so fun. And that consistency, that intensity of us just like taking care of it, nurturing it over time, that's the success. The success is watching it grow so slowly over time. The success for you is watching yourself become better with how consistent you've become. The success is not feeling some type of way because you didn't show up that day, because you regret that you ate a cookie, because you regret that you took so much time off because you were nurturing your new child or your new job or your new home. So we're not being mean to ourselves because we didn't show up and have success and results right away. We're finding kindness and patience most of all because we know that good things don't happen overnight. And that is the beauty of consistency. So in review, step 1, knowing your stamina gap. Step 2, knowing your season. Step 3, understanding the pushing and pulling and giving and taking and where you're going to pull from when you're so consistent with something else. And step 4, understanding that perfection does not exist. However, something that is very close and better than perfection is being consistent and showing up for yourself. This takes me back to our episode on how to play offense and defense in dance, episode 22. And it's really just knowing yourself a little bit more. When can you pull back? When can you push in? We also talked about stuff like this in episode 5. And the reason why I'm bringing these up is because I feel like if you're like me, when I'm listening to a podcast, I'm like, ooh, that. I want more on that. So I'm feeling like if you are like, oh, I want more information on that, you have the resources that you need to go and have a listen to other things that are slightly related to this. So when we take back and we pull back a little bit, we turn our volume down. Yeah, we could be showing up 70%. We could be showing up 3%. The point is we're getting the rep in. We're still showing up and we still are getting something out of it. Don't forget that moment in between when we have our full out rehearsal and our next full out rehearsal, that little run through in the middle is what's helping us to even have a more successful rehearsal the next time we have one. Knowing that 5 minutes is better than 0 minutes. Consistency can feel so boring. We talked about that before. And it's also one of the secret talents of success. The compounding results you get from being consistent, you don't get to see right away. So get excited for yourself for this new season of consistency, now knowing that you can turn your intensity volume up or down to stay more consistent. And just 3 things to help you stay on this path is to try and avoid all or nothing thinking. So that's the idea of like, I'm only going to do this if I can do it 100%. That's you wanting to do it consistently with your intensity volume turned all the way up. Another thing would be to recognize that comparison is always going to seep its way in here, because when you're on your own pace and your own track, just think of like a running match. When you're thinking about a race, you can see everyone maybe perhaps flying by you. And that's when we talk about that podcast. She's not better than you. She's just further. They're not better than you. They're just different. They're further. They're going somewhere else. We're all on our own path. And then the last, we talked about this all day, perfectionism. So just to remember those 3 things, all or nothing thinking, comparison, and perfectionism. We're not striving for any of those. So start small, smaller than you think. Create rituals around making showing up easy. So maybe it's, I know this is an old trick from maybe like back in the early 2000s where they would say, lie your gym outfit on your bed before you go to bed. And then you'll probably like see your outfit in the morning and get dressed. Same thing with dance. Pack your dance bag before you go to work and have it in your trunk so that you can go there if you end up getting out of work late. One of my students just told me this the other day. He's like, I want to stretch every day. And now I've made it part of my routine that right before class, I'm going to stretch. And while I'm stretching, I'm listening to your podcast, getting myself in the mood to get to class. I'm like, I love that because you're getting your body ready. You know you're getting excited to go to dance. You're getting your mental ready by listening to one of these episodes. So you're getting yourself in the zone and then expecting days off. So remember how I told you that I have this like double whammy weekend and then another double whammy weekend? I'm going to expect myself to need some time during the week to just chill and not do what I would normally do. And lastly, and this might make sense in terms of like our social media, is celebrating a streak versus perfection. So celebrating showing up for yourself every day in some capacity versus showing up perfectly every day. Consistency is what keeps you in the game. Intensity definitely spices it up and gets you excited to go harder and to get your goals, especially if you're closer to your goals. Again, that's your season. If you had to pick one, pick consistency. That is where you'll find transformation and feel success. So my question to you this week is, where can you trade intensity for consistency? Send me a DM on Instagram at Chrissy Filipino. If this was helpful for you at all, it would mean the world to me if you left a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the dance floor.